What's up, everyone? Welcome to More Than Mortgage. Chad, Zach, that guy. We're talking about budget today and your home and how you could probably get a home that's bigger, nicer, fancier. And guess what? Your overall budget could go down. Imagine that. You get a nicer home for less. And you say, well, how is that possible? That's what Zach and I are going to go over with today because we've ran into this quite a few times recently with different customers, and people, they can't see the forest for the trees, Zach. The forest is the budget. The tree is the mortgage payment, but that mortgage payment just gets so far in their way and in their line of sight that they can't see around it, and they can't see the bigger picture. I'll let you go because you've had this experience and it's come up a couple of times, but this is one where people literally could be helping themselves get in a better house and a better situation. But yeah, they just can't get past that mental obstacle.
Right. And maybe the obstacle, Chad, is fear-based. I think that everybody's afraid of the big mortgage payment. And with good reason. I think that we all need to be mindful of how that plays into the big picture. But what we're specifically talking about, this is a conversation that's kind of been ongoing between the two of us over and over. I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about, where people have, I guess virtually everybody has equity unless you just bought a year or two ago. But we've got more equity in the United States as homeowners than ever before in history. And so
It's not close.
if people are thinking about buying and selling, so you're selling your house, you're going to have a bigger down payment, a bigger chunk of money, a bigger draw off of that equity than you ever have in the past. And what we have found, and I've seen it specifically over and over again, we started talking about this, about doing this particular show on Tuesday, and I just finished up another application that was, kind of putting this proposal together for some customers yesterday, and they were like, wow, what kind of problems does that solve in our life? And so what we're talking about is taking some of those net proceeds from the sale, which is net proceeds is the chunk of money, the bucket of money that you have walking away from the table when you sell your house. So after all fees, after everything is paid for, this is the amount that you have. Using some of that bucket of money to resolve high interest credit card debt, student loan debt, pay off the last 13 months of the minivan, whatever it is, in order to create a positive effect on your overall budget, so that it's a little bit easier to look at, a higher mortgage payment because prices are up and rates are on the higher end of things than what we've been used to and what we've experienced. So you might, in a situation where you had a borrower that had $140,000, maybe you take $40,000 out of that bucket of money and resolve some debt, make a difference of, you're paying off the car and a couple of high interest credit card debts and a signature loan. You might make a $700 or $800 swing in that person's actual monthly budget by eliminating those payments for the cost of $40,000, which would ultimately be about $280 a month at today's interest rates.
Yeah.
So you swing the budget by $800 or $900 for the price of, $280. That's a net $600 to the bottom line budget for that family. And that's a game changer. Plus you get the new house that accommodates your family better, creates a better situation, gets you into the right school zone, gets you that extra bedroom, downsizes, and maybe you're actually moving down in house. And so you've got another boost to that. This was kind of the situation that I ran into this week. So you've got to take a look at this, the family budget as a big picture item, and where we have cash, the luxury of cash coming from the sale of a home. Don't get all stuck on this idea that you got to push all of that money into the new down payment, because you might really set yourself free and create a completely different experience around this home buying situation by thinking about utilizing it different.
Honestly, I could go on and on about the different options and opportunities and scenarios that I've had just personally dealing with families recently. We took two families who They couldn't find anything in their price range, Zach, but they were
Okay.
so fixated for the first 60 days. They sweet families, but they were kind of fixated on, I want my mortgage to be $2,400 a month. That's
Gotta
it.
hit that cap.
That's our budget, 2,400.
Yep.
Then you start looking at it and it's like, well, if you're paying this per month right now, what if we just put some money towards paying off your debt? You took a higher mortgage payment, your budget doesn't change, but now you've got a bigger house, a nicer house, and you've got money in the bank.
Right.
And that's what happened. I talked to somebody just this week talking about getting pre-qualified, pre-approved. And this is where the Dave Ramseys of the world, they can be good and bad. I'm not a Dave hater. Okay. I just think that his policies are so common sense that sometimes, he just entrenches himself in the common sense policies that he doesn't even want to discuss the options. But that's because he's trying to dummy it down.
He has to do that. Yeah.
Right. It's like the options create a lack of discipline is the problem. And so that's why he doesn't like options, because
which is why people are talking to Dave Ramsey, is because they've got themselves in a hole that they can't pull themselves out of. Right.
Correct. And that's where you get. But I was talking to this lady who, very smart, really high credit score, budgets well, has a ton of discipline. And she was kind of in that same mindset. She's like, I can't go over this because I can't go over my budget. And she was wanting to put 15 or 20% down. And I said, well, what if you only did 10% down and paid off the car? Now you actually have $100 less in your budget every month, meaning like your budget went down $100. You saved $100 a month by doing this method. And it took her 10 minutes to kind of process that mentally. Like, well, no, because the car's over here. And people get so compartmentalized. Really, guys, at the end of the day, your checking account is not compartmentalized. It's one giant ledger that says this is what came in, this is what went out. So if we can reduce what went out while at the same time putting you in a better home, putting you in something that you love instead of you like, that's where the budget discussion comes into play.
Yeah.
And I think too many people are missing it. But it's a real thing. And that's where Zach and I take a lot of pride, because we slow things down and we say, like, don't just take all your money and dump it. Like, let's actually figure out where we need to go here. And I think that's something that separates us from a lot of other people. Any final thoughts on that?
Listen, it's like you said, it's pervasive. It's like almost every single conversation. If somebody has a house to sell, this conversation needs to be considered. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're coming in and you got 3.5% to buy a house, then you don't have the same options that this bucket of money actually affords you. But if you have a house to sell, it's worth spreading everything out on the table and trying to use your budget as a tool to improve your lifestyle, to set yourself up for security, to ease the pressure. There's so many things. And I'll add this. One of the most important considerations, I think, in my work that I key in on, I don't necessarily dig for this stuff, but there's always these life horizon events that are coming up. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that people really see those for how rapidly they approach. But one of the conversations this week was with a family who's trying to get together and create a kind of a multi-generational living situation. And the mom is 66 years old and she needs to retire. I got a little picture of her life, and she really needs to take it easy. She's done it. She has worked hard and she deserves to enjoy some things. Yep. And so we were able to take this equity situation and create some freedom for her in this proposal. And I think I felt better about it than the family did.
You were pumped.
I was so stoked about just this elimination of all this burden that this woman must have been feeling. And I'm just reading the credit report in the application, right? Yeah. So whether that's maybe a retirement horizon, or the kids are getting ready to go off to college, or maybe they're just getting ready to go to school. I got another customer this week who's, one more year of childcare, and then it's on to kindergarten. So there's all these life horizons that come up for people that are going to have a significant change in the monthly budget. You got to put those things into the equation as well.
One thing to end with that I always tell people, you said it, life happens. Sometimes it's good. Unfortunately, sometimes it's bad, but life is constantly happening. And I always tell people, if you want to do an exercise, and if you don't believe me or don't believe Zach in these situations, here's an exercise. Look back at your life and be objective just 5 years ago. Shoot, do 3 years ago, 3 years, 5 years, do a short window. Your life then, would you have predicted that where you are today is exactly what you predicted 5 years ago?
No way.
And the answer is no. The answer is no, because it changes all the time. And so we kind of have these like, well, no, this is what's going to happen. But then we forget that life happens. So yes, take the budget into consideration, be nimble, be agile, be able to kind of pivot, do whatever. And that's about it. Budget though. Budget's the key. Make sure you reach out. Zach Jones Loans right there, bottom left, Mortgage Dad Chad. Download, subscribe, hit the bell, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Drop a comment, shoot us a DM. We love talking about this stuff. And no joke, we've literally helped people get bigger, nicer, fancier houses that they truly loved with less money than what they were going towards. So keep that in mind. We can help you. We can strategize. Have a great rest of the week and weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you next time.